How would you react in a life or death situation? That's the premise of the new crime thriller, I Will Ruin You, from best-selling author Linwood Barclay. He joins us now with more ahead of a big event tomorrow afternoon at the Burlington Public Library. Such a treat to have you here because I love your books.
Well, thank you so much, and it's nice to be here. Thanks very much for that.
And I gobbled this one up and already have people in the control room going, I'd like to borrow that book afterwards because they know. So this one's set in a high school.
Yes. Yeah, it starts in a high school. It's about a teacher named Richard. Is this high school teacher, English teacher, and he's in the middle of doing a class teaching Cormac McCarthy's The Road off the curriculum, and happens to look out the window and sees someone, a young fella, crossing the parking lot in what appears to be a jacket with a bomb attached to it. And while things end rather tragically, they could have been a lot worse. And Richard is hailed as something of a hero, and that brings him, that notoriety has some rather sad side effects in that someone who sees about him on the news gets in touch and says, you know, he's a one-time student at the school, and says, I know something about you that if people knew, they might not think you're the big hero that they do now. And now Richard finds himself, you know, having no good deed goes unpunished. Now he's the victim of a blackmailer, and things start to get just worse and worse for him. And worse and worse. And the book is all about actions and inactions. Like, if he had done one other thing, would all these problems have come in? Yeah, and some of the things that he's done, you know, were well-intentioned, you know, and we live in this kind of a world where, you know, moments are caught out of context. And there had been an earlier incident where he was comforting a kid and, you know, giving this boy a hug because his father had died. But some kid grabs that picture and starts posting it and says, oh, you know, this Richard, this teacher, he's the school pervert. Mm-hmm. And, you know, none of which is true, but it's just these little, and then these things start to spread, and so he's up against a lot of problems. Right. The novel The Road plays a big part, a big string along this. Yeah. Did you kind of base the idea of this on okay, I'm gonna somehow work this in? Well, you know, even though you're writing a thriller, which in many ways is, you know, intended as an entertainment, doesn't mean that I can't, you know, if I have an axe to grind, I can work it in. Yeah. And it drives me crazy, these movements, particularly south of the border, to ban books and to shield children from ideas and discussions and controversy. And so Richard thinks, you know, a lot of the stuff that's on the English curriculum is really pretty boring, not just for kids, but adults too. And he thinks, I want to teach them a book. Here's a Pulitzer Prize-winning novel that, you know, these are kids who've grown up watching 28 Days Later and The Walking Dead. A post-apocalyptic thriller that has a lot to say might be just the perfect thing for them. But it's a pretty raw book in places, and one kid is a little upset. Then there's a parent who hears about it, and then suddenly there's a meeting. And it's like, well, we can't have the kids reading this sort of thing. And Richard's thrown into the sort of situation where he says, you know, is there a novel out there that won't offend somebody? Right. And maybe we should just teach the kids, you know, state capitals and the times tables, and that's it. We won't introduce them to ideas or discussions on, you know, values and things like that, because that's a minefield. And so he's, you know, he's got enough problems, but now he's got a parents group after him. And you have a whole blurb in there, and I love it, teaching about the values that novels teach us. Yeah, and different ways of thought, empathy. Yeah, and he said, I mean, as Richard says later in the book when he's talking to the parents, and he says, I'd be doing your kids a disservice if I were to protect them from all of these things and not let them see, you know, good literature, good fiction promotes discussion and brings people together, and we can start, you know, you may not agree with what I have to say, but we can talk about it, and we can use this book as a sort of jumping off point to do that. And you know, whether Richard wins anybody over remains to be seen. Right. Got 30 seconds left. You're going to be talking more about this book tomorrow with international bestseller Lucy Foley. Yep. That's going to be an awesome chat. There is a wait list for that conversation at the Burlington Central Library. That's tomorrow from 2 until 3. Linwood, always awesome to have you on the show. Can't wait for book number 25 to come out. Can't wait. Until then, thanks for having me. I Will Ruin You. You'll love it.